Hey everybody, welcome to the final edition of Krown Countdown U. Before we take our hiatus, yes, we will be back in August, but will there be a coach in McMaster in August? What a time to have a coaching change. With spring camp wrapped up, the McMaster Marauders were ready to take the summer to plan for another assault to the top tier of the OUA. That was until Stefan Patazic took the leap to the CFL to fill the vacant offensive coordinator position with the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Under Patazic's leadership, the Marauders won 3 Yates Cups, 3 bowl games, and the best game ever, the 2011 Vanier Cup. Patazic was Coach of the Year in 2012 and leaves the CIS with a 73-29 record. The interim replacement spent 8 years as Patazic's defensive coordinator. Greg Knox was the defensive backs coach with the Winnipeg Blue Bombers last year, but was named the McMaster Marauders interim head coach on May 16th. Now to the unofficial start of the Canadian football season, the East-West Bowl, featuring the top players entering their senior year in this country. This is an event not as much about the game as it is about the week of combines, training, and learning. The West team, made up of the Canada West and the OUA teams not named Ottawa, Carleton, and Queens, won the game 29-14, with Alberta's Tyler Henry hauling in 2 TDs from McMaster's Asher Hastings.
Really happy. It's really nice to get a win anytime you're out here, and just to come together and come back in that third quarter felt really nice to kind of get in rhythm. And I mean, to play with all these ballers out here has been, just been a blessing, and it makes me look a lot better than I actually am. So it's fun.
Oh, it was a great experience. You got jitters, but at the same time, you're just trying to take in everything that they're teaching you. So it was a great experience, and something I'm going to use in the off season as part of my training.
It was amazing meeting up with the CFL coaches. They were giving us tips. I tried to take more than I could, and it was a great week.
It's great to have your CIS coaches, whatever, helping you out, but when you go to the next level and they're helping you out and they're teaching you new things to do, it's a lot more interesting, a lot more fun, and we all were just trying to act like a sponge and just soak up anything that we can. So it was exciting.
Favorite part of the week is definitely just, being able to hang out with everybody, meet everybody, and, that first practice to get the combine out of the way and get out on the field for the first time, put the helmet on. That was a great feeling.
It was the first day of practice. I came in thinking that it would be a bit easier or whatnot. I came in the C-gap, fullback came and he pancaked me, and then that's when I realized, hey, these guys are all-stars too, so let's play hard.
It feels great. I know all of us guys worked really hard for this. At the end of the day, we're all friends, and coming from different schools, playing against each other, but coming together as a West Side, it was great. So I was honored, and I'm glad we got the W.
The Toronto Argonauts really like local talent. That's the conclusion you'd have to draw after breaking down the CFL Draft data. Outside of their first-round pick, Acadia receiver Brian Jones, the Double Blue went on a drafting tear through the OUA, selecting 2 varsity Blues, 2 York Lions, 2 Marauders, and a pair of Griffins. In total, that's 9 CIS products, leading all CFL teams. Meanwhile, New Orleans Saints 4th-rounder David Onyemata of Manitoba was also a CFL 4th-round selection, as the Saskatchewan Roughriders decided to take a future on the D lineman. Chris Zook caught up with Onyemata right after the draft.
You knew the Saints a bit because they were the first ones who looked at you way back a couple years ago, and they were here in the pro day. Just talk about kind of that connection you've had with the Saints before even being drafted by them.
I felt like it's been a really great connection. Just when I got out there for my visit, I felt really comfortable. It felt like I was home, So once after my visit, after my pro day with working with Coach Johnson and everything, I felt really comfortable with my coach and the organization.
Earlier in the month in Calgary, hometown quarterback Andrew Buckley won the BLG Award as the top male athlete in the CIS. The 2-time Heck Creighton Award winner, Buckley capped 5 years of quarterbacking at the U of C by setting a single-season CIS passing records of 3,162 yards.
It was outstanding, to have this in my home city and all the support. I even had high school teachers out here, which is just incredible. I've had so much support behind me, and by no means is this an individual effort. It's just a culmination of people helping me out along the way.
One of the pillars of any recruiting program are facilities. The three big ones on the horizon, one in Kingston, one in Regina, and one in Guelph. At Queens, the replacement for the second-generation Richardson Stadium is well underway on a new 8,000-seat replacement. But just in case, the OUA has bought the Gales some time schedule-wise. The team will start on the road at Laurier, take an early bye week, and then have another tough roadie in Guelph. The Tartan returns to the third incarnation of Richardson Stadium September 17th when the Gales host traditional Big Four rival Western. Meanwhile, when Queens visits Guelph, there will be a construction site on the sidelines at the Griffins' home. A new $8.1 million pavilion is being constructed adjacent to the main grandstand. We will have a complete walkthrough of the new Guelph facility when KCU returns in August. If you're a football fan in Canada and don't know about the new Mosaic Stadium, you are not a football fan. Please turn in your membership card. But did you know there are plans for the Regina Rams and the Saskatchewan Huskies to open the stadium in a test event on October 1st? The event is not yet confirmed, but if the plan moves forward, the first game in the new barn would smash the Canada West attendance record of 10,300 set at IGF Stadium in Winnipeg back in 2014. Stateside, the spring camp is big-time stuff. Here, we're finally getting fans and media to notice, but they are beginning to clue in, especially in a country without playoff hockey. From Ottawa to Montreal to the coast, teams evaluated and set the stage for summer training. Let's start in the home of the Vanier Cup champions, the University of British Columbia.
Well, it's a totally different dynamic in terms of the culture of the program. You know, right now, though, we know that nothing is guaranteed. I made a comment to the kids yesterday after practice that, you know what, this is this year, and we have to prove ourselves all over again. We still have a ways to go, in my opinion, to show the kind of characteristics that teams have that are consistent, you know, and I'm hoping that we continue to improve on those skills, improve on our conditioning, our physicality, and hopefully when, you know, we show up here again in August, we're ready to defend a national championship.
I think that we're definitely improving and taking our game to the next level. I think we're able to do a little more advanced stuff now that we have a year under our belts under Coach Barato. And I think as a team, you know, we're all just getting more comfortable with the new coaches, and we're continuing to improve.
In London, Greg Marshall is looking at a new starter with Stevenson Bone at quarterback after the retirement of Will Finch, in addition to other changes.
I think, you know, we'll be similar on offense. You know, Stevenson had a chance to play last year and they'll play a little bit the last couple of years. So he's certainly ready, and our offensive line will be strong. Defensively is where we'll see, you know, along the defensive front, you know, probably the biggest change. You know, we lost Darryl Wadd, you know, 2 years ago, and then, you know, this year we're most likely going to lose Rupert Butcher and Andrew Petta, and so they're kind of the heart and soul of our interior defensive line. For so many years, we were so good at that spot and very, very deep at the defensive tackle position. You know, not so anymore, and so it's going to be an opportunity for some of the young players to step up and play.
At Foot Field, it may be a make it or break it year for the Golden Bears, where Raymond, Alberta receiver Jimmy Ralph provided some leadership.
I just try to lead by example, just trying to play hard each rep, show them what it takes to, you know, be a championship team. So just trying to, teach hard work and the importance of preparation. So that's kind of the role I'm going to try and take this year as a receiver, and hopefully it'll help us out.
Now joined by Chris Morris, the head coach of the Alberta Golden Bears. Chris, give me your impressions of how your spring camp went.
No, we had a great spring camp this year. It's all, you know, it's always a byproduct of your recruiting class and how will those guys fit in. Our team's mature. It's starting to get to the point where we have some 20, 21, 22-year-old players around here, which is a lot different than the last few years. So, you know, we were fielding a team of 18, 19, and 20-year-olds up till now, and we finally see that maturity coming in, and we added some older pieces on defense too, with a kid like Blake Adams and a kid like Dane Douglas and, you know, Julio Lewis, and those kids really, really came to the table and performed well for us. So it was a very good spring camp.
Is the biggest challenge that you have on offense right now making sure that everyone is involved in the game?
Yeah, I think we have some playmakers for sure. I think for us, the challenge up till now has been finding, that offensive line group. We have like 5 or 6 Team Canada guys here in our offensive line group, but there's, you recruit a Team Canada guy, they're still 18. So it takes 3 years for them to be physically mature enough and to understand the game enough to play at a high level of the CIS. So we're getting a few guys right now like Justin Lawrence and Mark Corte and a kid like Logan Trachuk. Those kids are really, really heading into the prime of their careers. So we're excited about that part of it. We're excited about having that line up front to give our playmakers time to get open. And we feel that, we have anybody on our offense that's in a skill position has the ability to do things with it when they get it. So we're in a real good spot on the offensive side of the ball. We're excited about this year.
What about competition at quarterback? Ben Kopczynski proved that he could be a good game manager at times. You've got 5 on the roster. What sort of competition did you see springing to light at spring camp?
Yeah, our competition's between Ben and Brad Baker. Brad Baker's a pure passer. We feel that he could be, very, very special. But Ben did an excellent job for us last year as a first-year quarterback. And that's what a lot of people sometimes forget is it's a first-year quarterback. And the way he runs the ball and the way he can make things happen, and he does have good arm strength as well. And he's a natural leader. So between those two, we're going to have a very good person at the quarterback position for us next year. It's up to them to decide, who's going to work harder during the summer, who's going to throw more, who's going to come back and sort of take the reins of the team.
What was the difference between a 2-6 team and say maybe a 4-4 or a 5-3 team last year?
Yeah, I think honestly for us, having every single member of our secondary out after game 4 was a big problem, right? With the youth of our team, we started the year 2-0 and we had a very competent defense. I think we were top in the league actually after our second game. And then we took that pummeling in Calgary. And more important than losing the game, we lost 2 or 3 guys. And then in Manitoba, we lost 2 more guys. So by going into game 4, now we're down pretty much our entire secondary. So that was a big problem for us. I think a lot of other areas we showed growth in, but we just weren't deep enough at that point in time to compete with that many injuries. And if you look at the guys, I think we were ranked as the 2nd or 3rd best recruiting class in the country last year. We didn't want to burn those kids' eligibility just because we were in a panic because we had some guys hurt. So we redshirted those guys and we made sure they stayed. We got 1 game out of each one of them. And we tried to be conservative with the fact that these guys are going to be elite players down the road. So all of those guys who redshirted last year who were, we have some very good athletes coming on board here. They're all going to step into roles that next year and they're going to make big contributions for us.
How do you think the Golden Bears are going to surprise people coming out of the gate this year? I think there's a lot of expectations placed on your team for people who follow this closely, that you could make a major run this year. And I don't think people who are on the outside that look at a 2-6 team from last year necessarily see that in the offing. How are you going to surprise people?
Yeah, you know what? For us, it really is just about having confidence. We have some players here who are as good as anybody in the league, and it's guys got to start walking around here like they really believe that. And that's we've done lots of work this year with our leadership group and with our captains to have guys understand what it takes to to play at that next level and to mentally be at that next level. For us to surprise people, we got to be consistent. We haven't been consistent. We've played really well, and we've played. We've beaten top 10 teams. We've beaten top 3 teams. And then all of a sudden we'll come out and get beat by 60. So veteran, mature teams who are mentally prepared to play don't lose like that. Mentally prepared to win. And that's not what we've been. We've been sort of up and down, and I think it's a byproduct more of youth than anything else. But I'm expecting us to be a far more stable team that competes in every game we play, and that consistency's got to come aboard this year.
One last question before I let you go here. What do you think the biggest challenge is, not just facing your team, but facing CIS football right across the country?
Yeah, to me, and I'll be honest, I'm a little different than most guys in this one. I think there's a little bit of professionalism oozing its way into the CIS ranks, and I'll be honest, I played CFL for 14 years. I understand what the professional ranks are all about. The future for these kids isn't in the CFL. The future for some of them is to play CFL for a while and find their way to become better young men. The future for these guys is education, and we're not in the NFL, and we don't have a big pot waiting at the end of the rainbow for a lot of these kids. They need to understand, and as a group in the CIS, we need to understand that we're using this sport to help them develop to be productive members, rather than thinking that there's some sort of professional goal for these kids. it's great to aspire towards that, but education's got to come first here. It always has in the CIS, and that's what's great about our version of football and university football compared to what exists down south. And I think we need to make sure we really, really defend that with a lot of passion, because our kids should leave here with educations, and we shouldn't be trying to just produce football players. And I think that's a big challenge as we become more and more seeking to glorify CFL and seeking to glorify professional football. We need to understand that they're here for an education, and I think it's important that we don't lose our path on that one.
Around the Bend, we talk CFC Top 100 with Clint Uttley from Canada Football Chat. Krown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Krown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of university football on Shaw. Krown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football. Welcome back, everybody, with two new head coaches taking the helm out of 4 teams in the AUS. It's a great time to find an anchor in all of the change. So why not turn to the senior head coach in the conference, Acadia boss Jeff Cummins, who is entering his 14th season with the red, white, and blue. We caught up with him last week.
The coaching changes that have happened with Coach Brady taking over for Kelly Jeffrey and Colsey taking over for Coach Marchese, I mean, I think there's a few question marks there. But I would say so, yeah. I mean, I think if you look at the 4 different conferences, who's going to come out of this conference is a box of chocolates. I mean, you just don't know.
When it comes to the interlock that was signed off with the RSEQ, for 1 year. How important is that to your conference in your mind to be connected to another conference, to get some variety out there for your fans and for your players? And do you ever see a time where you have at least some resources to maybe expand that?
Well, it's extremely important. I mean, we love the opportunity to play against someone outside of our conference. Obviously, it does get a little monotonous at times. It just depends on the year. But for our purposes, yeah, we love playing in the interlock. We love the opportunity to either travel to Quebec or have somebody from the RCQ come to see us. And we get the 2-time Vanier Cup team, Montreal Carabin, to come play us this year. So we're excited about it. I mean, we're pumped up. How they got to that decision, I have no idea. That we get Montreal, as we were the 3rd place team last year, and a couple of years ago when we were first, we played first. But how that all works out, I don't care. I think it's an advantage for us that we're going to get to play somebody of their caliber. So we're excited about it. As far as the resources to play, resources aren't the problem. What the situation is with us is that we start a week later than everyone else in the country. We don't have the extra week to practice and get ready that everyone else does. Not they get an extra week to practice, but they start a week earlier in all 3 other conferences outside of ours to get ready for the same national championship date. So we just don't have the opportunity to add that into our schedule because we don't have a bye week. We don't have extra time within the season to do some of the things that the other teams are doing. So when we're starting, everyone else has already been in camp for a week and they're ready to go for for a exhibition game, and we've only been in camp for a day. So it's not necessarily the resources, it's just the opportunity, to be honest. We've had 7 different quarterbacks in the last 3 years. I mean, for us to stay healthy at the quarterback position would be a big thing. Canadian football is so quarterback driven. If you look at the past champions over the last couple of years, if you look at the semifinalists and whatnot, they've all had great quarterbacks. And at the quarterback position, if you don't have a guy that can run your team, run the show, throw the ball, keep his composure, and be a leader out there, you're going to be in trouble. So staying healthy is probably the biggest challenge that we have. I'm excited about where we're going and what we're doing. We got a new locker room facility being built right now with a weight room and a hockey locker room and all. So we got great stuff going on here on campus. Our athletic director has done a great job. Kevin Dickey has done a great job with what he's done here within our athletic department. We're growing all the time, and we had 5 or 6 teams ranked in the top 10 throughout the course of the year this year. We only have 10 varsity teams, and to have 5 or 6 of them in the top 10, our hockey team was ranked number one for about a month. I mean, we're doing some special things out here. So challenges for us, would just be getting someone to see the campus and doing their homework. Once they do that and they find out what we're all about, there's no real challenges. It's just it's exciting, and I'm happy to be in the situation that I'm in. And I think any kid that comes to school here is lucky to have this opportunity, and we're in turn lucky to have them.
You talked about playing in a 4-team conference. You've had the opportunity now to watch the development of the AFL in your own backyard that has some school affiliations, but essentially they're U24 club teams. They operate like junior teams. Do you see the day where one of those operations may step up to playing AUS football? And if so, is that a good thing, or is that a strain on your resources there?
No, I would think it'd be a great thing. I definitely have watched it kind of grow over the last 3 or 4 years, or 5, or whatever it happens to be now. It's been a good thing for football in general out here on the East Coast. It's given kids an opportunity to play where they may not have had opportunity prior to that. It's something that we've been watching. We have some former players that have played in some of those situations and on those teams. We've also recruited from there and brought a few guys in, obviously from Holland College. So it's been a really good thing. Do I foresee one of them coming into our conference, and would it affect us in a good or bad way? I would love to see another team come into our conference. Would it put a strain on us? No, not necessarily. I don't believe so. I think it would give us a little bit more strength as a conference in the country. I think it would give us another opportunity to play somebody else and kind of spread out, some of the games that we're playing. It wouldn't dilute us in any way. I don't believe. I think there's enough kids out here that we could recruit, just as many, if not more. And I think it would push us to kind of maybe invest in a few places that we haven't looked at up to this point. So I think it would be a very positive thing. And I think there are a couple of teams, specifically that could get into it. But it's just a matter of their administration, making that decision to take that jump and realize that there's so many more positive things that come from having a football team than negatives.
I moved over a chair, which means we have somebody in studio, and that is none other than Clint Uttley from Canada Football Chat. And Clint will also be joining us on the panel come the fall as our third panelist. Clint, first of all, thanks for being here and going through really the top 25 players of the CFC Top 100, and there is one that stands out, and he's from Edmonton, Chuba Hubbard, the running back. I saw footage of this kid back when he was in grade 10, and it looked like he was ready for the next level. He is a special player, isn't he?
I tried to put him on the list last year when he was a sophomore in high school, not knowing too much information. And then the name just is catchy, right? Mm-hmm. He committed last week to Oklahoma State and immediately started exchanging Twitter messages with Des Bryant. So, I mean, he's probably the most dynamic football player I've seen in 5, maybe even 10 years coming out of Canada. How he's not a 5-star recruit in the States is just mind-boggling.
What makes him so special?
A combination, like he's tall, like he's a big kid. They have him at 190, but like he's just fast. When he gets the ball in space, it's like he's breaking angles all over the field. Like nobody can track him down from the backside. So yeah, he's big and he is fast. I think he's on Team Canada for track as well. So
now in the next group 2 through 5, we've got a number of kids who have decided, and their families have decided to go stateside to develop. Tell me about that group and who stands out in that group.
The two, they're both from Ottawa, but Luigi Villain, the defensive end, and Jonathan Sutherland, the free safety, both went to Guelph Episcopal in Virginia, in Richmond. So they're both down there at this point. Luigi has like probably 30 offers, and like USC, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, those kind of offers. And Sutherland's a 4-star free safety down in the States, and he has offers from Michigan, Virginia, Nebraska, Penn State, so on and so forth. So he's at like 28 offers. So between the two of them, they're close to like 60 offers. So yeah, 2 legitimate prospects at prep schools in the States.
Mark David Ben-Ami is the offensive lineman who really stands out here. He plays with Montmorency in Cégep. Tell me about him and tell me about how some of the teams in the RSEQ are already probably working on this kid?
Well, coming from McGill like 2 years ago, when he arrived at CJIP at Momo, right away he was getting recruited immediately. And then I think he went through the Football Quebec system too. But like when he was like grade 11 going into CJIP, so his grade 12 year, he looked like an NFL guard. Like he looks like a professional player already. So there's no doubt, I would assume that Montreal is talking to him multiple times weekly. Laval would be recruiting him because Montreal is recruiting him. And he's already got an offer, I think it's from Toledo, and he probably has a couple other offers at this point as well. But like, he is a big, thick, prototypical guard.
Not a great year for quarterbacks, really, when you break through the numbers. It's not a year with an O'Connor and a Finch. It's not a 2 Hugo year. The numbers that I see are in at 32, 69, and 85, and 2 of those kids are out of CEGEP. Is it just part of the cycle right now?
I think so. It's something we talked about at length when we were making a list. We were like, who's the top quarterback? And we looked at the 2 CJIP kids. And then Nathan Rourke, if he had gone to a prep school, which I'm not sure he could have, would have been reclassified onto the list. But no, it's in regards to the talent we saw in the top 25, none of them really bounced into that category. And then the 2 CJIPs, and then the 1 Ontario kid is actually a reclassification. So no, I wouldn't say it's a bad year for quarterbacks, but there's not that high profile blue chip, the kid who's going to turn a program around type of kid this year.
When you look through the top 100, where is it a high cycle? What position is the best position this year?
I'm kind of partial. There's a lot of linemen, and they're just slowly starting to get offers now, but there's a lot of offensive and defensive linemen, and I think it's a great year for linebackers. I really do. There's a couple who are in the top 25, and they're just starting to really develop, right? These are kids who are in grade 11 going into grade 12, so physically they're going to develop. But I mean, there's a kid from South Delta, Grant McDonald. He's already been offered by Buffalo. I think he'll be one of the best linebackers. Joe Dutton from Calgary. It's an outstanding class for offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and the linebackers.
Well, Clint, thanks for coming by, and thanks for coming in studio. We look forward to seeing you in August when we start this whole thing up again and do it on a week-in, week-out basis. And for us, that does it for another season of Krown Countdown U. As we mentioned, we will be back in August on a weekly basis. But for now, let's get out to the game.